Hey guys, thank you for tuning into the podcast today. This is Brianna, and I am back with another solo episode for you. This one is all about the thing that sits at the heart of every great travel business and what you have probably heard us talk about time and time again from different angles. That is the client experience, because it's not just logistics, it's not just the beautiful hotels we find, but it is truly the feeling your clients have when they work with you. This is what they talk about after their trip. This is why they refer their friends. This is why they become repeat clients and rebook with you and become essentially what's your best marketing tool without you even realizing it. So this is the truth, and this is why I'm so passionate about this topic, because in this industry, I believe that client experience is your secret weapon, and it doesn't have to bring you out. So I don't want you to start listening to this thinking about she's going to tell us how we need to do more and more and more and kind of just add. Really, I want to talk you through the key pillars of what makes a standout client experience. I'll share some stories from my own business, Milk and Honey Travels, and just give you a few practical ways to elevate your client experience that you can start literally this week. So let's dive in and get going. I want to start with defining the client experience just to make sure that we're all on the same page. My belief is that the client experience is a full journey. It's not just what happens when the trip starts. It's the very first interaction to long after your clients return home. So essentially, think of it as how your client feels when they're in your hands or, like coming across you in any capacity. Do they feel confident? Do they feel seen? Do they feel taken care of? Do they feel surprised in the best of ways? Those are the things that I would hope all of us want our clients to feel. Sometimes, though, what we learn through feedback and just kind of like the way that clients interact with us and whether or not they come back for another trip or not is that clients can feel confused. They can feel like they're waiting too long or wondering what's happening behind the scenes. These things really don't say anything about the actual trip itself, but it says a ton about the client experience that they're having and then essentially how they feel working with you. So there are a lot of different ways that what we do can impact this and make a big difference, and just make sure that the trip itself is obviously the standout, but the whole experience really plays into how they feel and what they take away from it. So kind of think of it like this. There is, from the first point that anybody kind of finds out about you, starts your client experience, right? And so if they make an inquiry and your automated workflow kicks in, they are not waiting to be like, I wonder what happens next. I wonder how the communication is going to be. The emails that come right when somebody inquires on my website is automatic and it feels warm and personal. And that's what you want. You want it to just be those small touches, not this like big grand gesture that happens at one point or another. But think of it as the dozens of little things that make someone feel like, wow, she really gets me. He really gets me. They understand kind of like who I am and what I'm looking for. So let's talk about the three pillars of what I would consider a wow-worthy client experience. There's three things that I think you can categorize all the things that we do into one of these pillars. The first one would be thoughtful communication. So this is our ability to be timely and also be personal and present, right? We don't want our clients kind of considering, okay, when am I going to hear back? Like, we know how it feels on the other end when we're like, wow, I sent that proposal a week ago and it's crickets. Or, okay, they know that I sent an email for the, final payment and they haven't gotten back to me. Like, what's going on? On the flip side, there are times when we can get busy, when there's a lot of things in the air, when we have all these balls that are being juggled, and we're not as timely as we would hope to be when like things are perfect. It is up to us to put the things in place that require our communication to stay timely, but also not sound like a robot, not sound like they're getting that automated bot from us, really be personal and present. We want to also set clear expectations for response time. A lot of times it's not as much like when you responded, but it's when they thought you were going to respond. And so when we can kind of get in front of that and set expectations on when they're going to hear from us, how long after our consult call should they expect a proposal? And then if we're delayed on that, do we reach out ahead of that and let them know, hey, it's going to be, X more days for this reason. Thanks so much for waiting patiently, what have you. It's the expectations that really make the difference, not necessarily what those time boundaries are. We don't need to be available 24/7. I believe that wholeheartedly. And it's also the thing that I struggled with at the beginning of my career, is feeling like anytime an email came in, anytime, there was a proposal to get back to a client, it was so immediate and urgent. But really what that is me setting expectations and letting clients know when they can expect to hear from me, when certain things happen, and all of that thoughtful communication that allows them to okay, I don't need to worry about that, or I don't need to wonder. She has already told me what to expect. The other thing is how we check in at key milestones. So there are some certain kind of key points within the client journey as they're working with us that I do believe they're expecting to hear something. So that could be, obviously throughout the proposal phase and as we're kind of getting their final payments and all that kind of stuff. But how do you communicate before departure? How do you communicate during the trip? And how do you communicate after the return? A lot of that plays into the client experience overall, and also kind of gets them ready for working with you again and becoming that repeat client. There's a couple of examples that I think will bring this to light. So if you do a pre-trip check-in and it's kind of a generic message, kind of like, hey, I know you're getting ready to travel. Have a great trip, what have you, or here's your final documents or what have you. There are simple, short ways that you can kind of elevate this and make it really personal. You might consider a voice note style email or a text if you are a person that texts your clients before departure. And so really that just allows you to kind of personalize the message. A voice note takes no time. I know that I am a voice note person, just emailing my friends or texting my friends, what have you. And I can just kind of get out what I want to say so much quicker. But also just imagine how personal that feels to receive that as well. And then again, you're able to personalize that message that much more. Or if you text your clients directly, that can come over text as well. And it could just be the simple details that you include that are I know that your terrace in your Lisbon hotel is waiting for you, blah, blah, blah. But it just kind of makes it feel like a nice little hug, right? It's not necessary. And you doing something before departure, just period, makes a difference. But if you do have that ability to go one step further and personalize that pre-trip check-in, it does speak volumes. The other thing is kind of building in to your client communication things that show you remembered who they are, what they talked about, what's a priority to them. So for instance, when you are kind of going over their final itinerary, whether that you're doing that in a Loom video, whether that you're doing that over the phone, whether you're doing that in a regular email, you're pulling in things that show you remembered the initial consult or what they filled out on your form. Like you mentioned how much you loved small towns with cobblestone streets and little cafes. And I know this is the experience you're going to have on this beautiful day in Provence or something like that, right? I can picture you sitting there sipping your rosé. You kind of are able to fold in the personal details that you gathered from them that you told them were important or that they told you was important, and then build that into your communication down the line. It just really kind of creates a really great sense of connection. You guys know I'm big on boundaries. I'm big on time boundaries. And there is a way to also make sure that when you're talking about communication and when you are making sure that this part of thoughtful communication stays a clear kind of within your client experience, that you also make room for your boundaries and for the other things that you were kind of trying to do to run a business. So when you're setting clear, calm boundaries, you don't need to over communicate, but you have to make sure that you're clear. So for instance, if you are going out of town or you're on a fam trip or traveling, while your clients are traveling, how do you communicate that so that they understand, but they still feel taken care of? So hey, I'm going to be traveling during your trip. Don't worry. You have in-country support and they will check messages, during the day, or if anything urgent arises, here's the number to call. If it is an absolute emergency, my WhatsApp is this. whatever it is you need to kind of set boundaries around, but you're communicating that. And it's not that they email you while they're on a trip and then they get your out of office message and they had no idea. And then they feel kind of like a little bit confused, if that makes sense. So that's just a really easy way to make sure that the boundaries are set, but the thoughtful communication still shines through. The second pillar that I wanted to talk about was seamless logistics. So great client experience is often invisible, right? It's when it actually feels effortless for our clients. That's when it's a win. So we want the clear and beautiful itineraries because travel is visual, and that's a huge part of it before they actually get to go on the experience. We want a way for them to have support while they're traveling, whether that's through an in-country partner or whatever you have set up. If you're building your own trips or you are doing different types of travel, we want to have smooth transitions. We want to be able to think through our clients traveling and kind of get ahead of, hey, where does this feel a little bit clunky? Where might it not be as clear? Also considering how well traveled these clients are. So seamless logistics plays such a huge part in how a client experiences the overall experience with you, and paying attention to all those little ways that we can make a difference here, especially when they are traveling, when they have the systems and the support that ensures nothing slips through the cracks, and or if it does, there is a way to kind of address that as soon as possible. So with your itineraries, most of us, I hope, are using an itinerary platform, whether that's Travefy, whether that's Access, whether that's Turn. These digital itineraries give us the opportunity to do so much and share so much helpful information. It's not just the logistics, but it's also how we build in our own cues and tips that helps people travel. So when you're thinking through the final itinerary and the documents that you deliver to your clients, think through what are the things that I can add that is going to make this a seamless experience for them, considering that they've never done this before, potentially. They've never been to this destination. They've never traveled with you. They've never traveled in this way. There are so many small details that we can add that help us create that seamless experience. So it could be something as simple as explaining how they find their driver when they exit the airport or the train station or whatever. So just outside the arrivals hall, your driver's going to be waiting with a sign. He'll have, cold water waiting for you in the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. And here's who to contact if you don't see them right away, right? But not only is this information maybe written, if you are communicating in a Loom video, you're pointing out these things that may not be obvious when you are a newer to this type of travel person, right? You're also anticipating and preventing pain points. So when you're looking at their itinerary and you know that their flights have whatever, a 4-hour layover at Frankfurt Airport, you're like, great, so during your 4-hour layover, you have the opportunity to head to the lounge or get a bite to eat, blah, 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 before you head to your gate. It's just walking them through the experience and letting them know how you've thought through the seamlessness of the whole thing. Or, they're arriving late in destination and you're like, great, we've arranged for a light platter of cold cuts to be in your room because it's probably going to be too late for you to want to head out to dinner or whatever. Room service is available until X PM. Those small details that you're able to kind of layer into the framework of the trip really does show that this seamless experience is something that you have created and curated for them specifically. The other thing that you're able to do is give confidence through the systems and the workflow that you use. So if that might look like, hey, a confirmation before they're ready to depart, everything is confirmed, ready to go. They have a private guide, whatever. You're going to receive a WhatsApp message from your private guide 24 hours before. And I'll be monitoring flights, as you are traveling to Tokyo, what have you. That vote of confidence, knowing that kind of hey, you are so aware, they know what's coming next, they know how their guide is going to get in contact with them, just shows that you have thought through this trip from A to Z and really does kind of make that difference. Now, the third thing after thoughtful communication and seamless logistics is the personal touches. And this is a big one for me, but I know not everyone really wants to kind of go hard in this lane. I do think though that it is such a differentiator in what we do as small business owners and small, agencies, what have you. The way we're able to surprise and delight our clients really makes a difference in creating relationship for the long haul. And so these don't have to be grand gestures, but they should be and feel thoughtful. And this can center around things that happen at their trip, but also outside of their trip. So how you remember birthdays or anniversaries, special moments, reasons why they're traveling, preferences that they have, like, they're either allergic to dairy or they don't like mushrooms, whatever the case may be. When you remember these things and kind of find ways to show that like you're adding personal touches that have to do with them and that make them feel seen, this really goes a long way. And so it doesn't have to be things that you spend money on. It could just be the thoughtful way you write a note when they arrive at the destination, or the special touches that you believe are going to make a difference to their experience. I feel like a lot of times people think personal touches, number one, are going to cost a lot of money. And then number two, are going to take a lot of time. But when you build them into the workflow that you have on your back end, and it becomes just part of the systems and part of the workflow, it doesn't necessarily kind of add to the time that you put into a trip, but also it pays off exponentially. So when I think of the investment that I make for personal touches for my clients and for my client experience, it is always with the mindset that like I am investing in this lifetime value of the client. It's not just the $50 amenity or what have you. It's not just, the upfront dollar amount. It is what I believe a great client experience will do for the lifetime value of that client. I'm not looking just for this one kind of exchange or this one ability to kind of work with this client. I am looking at them becoming a client over and over and over again, and also referring people that are a great fit for my business as well. And so when I invest in with that mindset, it is always because I believe the ROI is there, and I believe that it makes a difference in how I make them feel seen and appreciated. So just think through that when you're thinking of that third pillar. What are the delight and personal touches that I can add to my client experience? We always think through kind of like how we are going to surprise and delight, and what is our budget for like the moments of wow, whatever it is that you call it. And I do think that it makes a difference. And that is the thing that when people are returning home or talking about their trips to their friends or their family, those small things and those small items are often the stories that get told. So that is where I stand on that. Okay. What makes your experience stand out? This is where your brand can really shine. And I want us to all think about, what are the 3 words that I actually want clients to use when describing their experience working with you, right? So it could be calming, it could be elevated, it could be fun, it could be luxurious, it could be empowering. But whatever those 3 words that you land on are, and we've talked about this when we talk about branding, because really when you create your brand experience, it should be infused in your client experience. And that kind of is like making it all work together. So if you haven't done that exercise, you can do it now, but have these 3 words that are essentially the things that you can go back to, and also the thing that you can filter your decisions through as well. Write down these words and reflect. Are my current workflows and touch points aligned with that vibe? If you are saying, I want to create an elevated client experience, are you going through all of the touch points that your clients have with you, all of the ways that they experience your brand, and asking yourself, does this feel elevated? Or how can I elevate this part of my experience more? If elevated isn't your word, you really would think through it differently. If fun is your word, then you can go through and say, hey, are these touch points that my clients interact with my brand fun? Can I make them funner? And that could be through, the tone of your emails, or how you engage, or the little like surprise moments that just kind of create that sense of fun. But if you don't have the words to filter through, you can kind of throw spaghetti at the wall at this. So when you're thinking about how you want your particular client experience to stand out, to make an impression, have these words that you can refer back to and also filter through when you're making your decisions, because this is how it's actually going to align with the right people and actually make a difference. If I want my clients to feel confident, if I want my clients to feel cared for, if I want my clients to feel delighted, then everything that I do, from my email tone to how I build my itineraries and what I include, should align with those descriptive words, right? So how would I make my clients feel known and seen? Well, this isn't just custom travel, although that, what I do is customized. I want them to feel seen by how I listen to them, how they go through my inquiry form, how I lead a inquiry or consult call, the notes that I'm taking. That way, if I'm doing that, then they're going to feel known and seen, because every detail of their trip is going to reflect back to them those things that I listened about and took note of, because I'm reflecting that back in their itinerary. I'm remembering what lights them up. The fact that they love quiet mornings on a balcony more than a big hotel breakfast, right? There are things that I can do on my end that don't cost more money, but that reflect back to them that I heard them, that they were seen. So that if they're telling me, hey, we really enjoy being outdoors and going on hikes, and it's not quite our jam to spend an afternoon at a museum, then not only am I taking into account like what I put into their itinerary, I'm also reflecting that back to them when I'm explaining what their itinerary consists of. And so it kind of does that both and job. My job is to design a trip that reflects them, not me, not a guidebook of best things to do in X location. And so when you're making your clients feel known and seen, your client experience stands out. The other thing I try to do is communicate with warmth and clarity. So my emails and my communication should feel like a friend who's a professional, right? I want to give reassurance and excitement. My personal client experience should feel friendly and relatable. And so I want that to always shine through when I'm communicating. It's not just about sending logistics. It is also about kind of communicating confidence, if that makes sense. So every message that they receive from me sounds like it came from someone who knows exactly what they're doing, who's excited for them. They should hear my emails or things that they read from me, and it should build trust, especially when when I'm asking them to invest so much of their earned money for a trip. I don't ever want clients to feel like they're chasing me or unsure of the next steps. I always want to be kind of like one step ahead, giving them the communication they need and feeling like, hey, we're in this together. I'm with you. I care. I'm all about this. Another thing about my own client experience that I'm thinking through is how I can elevate it without overcomplicating it, right? So I want to focus on moments that matter most, delivering a few key wow moments, but not overdoing it at every touch point, because that can be overwhelming, number one, and it can also really impact and influence my ability to scale my business. So I'd rather go all in on 2 to 3 moments throughout a client experience rather than trying to be over the top in every single email, every single interaction, because it's not sustainable and it's not necessary. But the goal is to have them come home and say, I can't believe she thought of that. I can't believe that was included. And so then the experience that they have feels luxurious and effortless. So think through how you align client experience with brand experience. My brand says calm, confident, elevated, intuitive, personal, and I want my client experience to reinforce that. And this is how it looks, kind of broken down in a format that might make sense visually. So if my brand promise is calm and confident planning, the client experience that should showcase that is clear timelines, proactive updates, smooth workflows that remove friction. All of that is going to lead to the promise of having a calm and confident planning experience with me. If my brand promise is personal and bespoke, then the trips should be shaped around individual desires and not cookie cutter experiences. That's what makes it personal and bespoke, if that's what I'm promising. If I'm promising an elevated and luxurious experience, then I should deliver within the client experience gorgeous itineraries, seamless transitions, and premium touches. And if my promise is, hey, a human, warm, grounded, friendly experience, then I want my communication to feel real and personal and not templated and transactional. So hopefully you can see how those like two columns go together. You understand what your brand promises are, and then you make sure that your client experience really showcases that promise and brings it to life. So all of it goes together and all of it makes sense and all of it kind of feels aligned. Now, how do we do all of this without burning out or feeling like we're overwhelming ourselves? I think the key to this is to do less, but do it better. You don't need to send a custom gift box for every trip. And I say this tongue in cheek because that's what I did for years and years and years. And I finally retired that because it was creating burnout. It was essentially too much work that I didn't see having the same reward. Now I know fabulous brands who still do that and do it well. Book It Box, Erica, hi, is one of them. And she has created that kind of touch point within her brand that really, really works for her. But for me, it was creating burnout, and it was ways that I could spend my time that would better kind of like affect my client experience. And so I did get rid of that. So it's not the thing that like you see somebody else doing that you must do. So find out what you can do and do it better versus trying to do something huge that can't really be sustainable. I can deliver a beautiful experience by choosing moments intentionally that I feel will matter more to my clients. Another way to avoid the burnout of all this is to figure out how you automate the stuff that is repetitive. That's through forms, through reminders that come up, that you're not trying to kind of hold all of this in your brain, but you're using automation and templates that are able to still feel personal, but they're built into your workflow and they don't become a drain on kind of like your mental capacity. And then pick a few moments where you always deliver and do those well. That's kind of like your wow moments that work for you and your brand promise, and that you kind of know, hey, here are the ways that I show up. Here are the ways that I wow them in ways that are unexpected. And this is where I want to hang my hat. And I don't need to do any and all other things, right? There is something to be said for where my business is now, that I do have team members that help me manage this. And it was more, when I was doing it all myself, it did become overwhelming. So I know that you kind of need to manage whether or not you are working independently just by yourself, or you have team members that can help with this. But there are still small things like sending a welcome home note within 5 days of them returning for their trip. It could be templated, and then adding in a little bit of personalization. Clients love things like this. And then maybe down the line, when you have assistance or help, or that it would make a difference, you layer in, a photo gift or something a little bit more personal that is in alignment with your brand promise and really kind of elevates your client experience. So all of this to say, there is not a reason to do all the things all at once, but I would love for you to pick one upgrade to your client experience that you can implement right away. Like I'm talking about this week. And maybe it's as simple as scheduling a 2-week out trip check-in before they go on their trip. Maybe it's automating a thank you email. Maybe it's surprising the next client with a special moment in their trip that they weren't expecting, like a beautiful dinner reservation with a view that kind of like comes as a surprise or something like that. The goal isn't to do more, but it is to do what matters really well. So think of something, let me know what you have added into your client experience. You can tag me on Instagram or DM me or something, but I just love to encourage you, cheer you on, and let this kind of be a reminder that client experience really is how you make people feel. And it can be anything from small touches to big wow moments, but it is a thing that matters probably more than anything in creating a client base and a book of business that works with you over and over and over again. So that is my episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. And let me know what you'd love to hear about next when it comes to client experience, because it's a topic we can never stop talking about. Thanks so much for joining today's podcast, and I will talk to you soon.